I gotta say, the story within Karlach's companion questline is unlike anything I've ever experienced, and I'm not kidding. I can't remember the last time a game has thrown a character at me that left me straight up speechless at how real they felt. Funnily enough, any contenders I can think of are also from this game, but I think Karlach stands out the most amongst them. It's a tale of betrayal, rage, heartbreak, and despair, all wrapped into one roller coaster of a story arc, and you feel every second of it because the character is just written to perfection. Welcome to Figuring Out Fantasy. Today we're going to be diving into Karlach's masterclass in character writing, because I think her design from head to toe is a shining example of just how deep you can make a player feel for a party member, and the way it uses your empathetic nature as a human being to evoke emotions should be studied by writers going forward, as it's not such a simple process. Drop a like if you're as attached to Karlach's character as I am, because we're going to be touching on everything here. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to make sure that my videos pop up right in your feed when I upload them. Well, without any more delay, let's get into it. The process of recruiting Karlach is one of the most memorable experiences I've had so early on in a game. When I came across Will and heard his spiel about killing a devil from Avernus, it fired me up! I mean, killing a devil would be the craziest thing we've done by far up to this point, and it's been such a long time since I first took that trek over to the river to confront this mysterious devil, but I still remember exactly how clueless I was, which is what made it all that much better. Not knowing about Karlach's presence in the game at all made this encounter so much more conflicting. It was sorta clear that a character with this much effort put into the quality of their writing was going to be more than just an NPC we meet and kill to complete a quest objective, though it is entirely possible to stroll up with a hard head and just, yep, no more fiery tiefling. Well, Will has no horns still. Yay. Okay, bad decisions aside, I think my first run-in with the tension of this encounter alone had me thinking, yeah, I'm in for a ride with this game. We understand that the tadpoles are capable of transmitting information about our characters that might not be out in the open yet, and that's all we have to go off of when it comes to what decision to make. When we met Will, the tadpole seemed very matter-of-fact when it described Karlach's fury. There really was no reason we wouldn't have believed that the monster in his thoughts and experiences was a blood-hungry war devil who escaped Avernus, and one who now poses a serious threat to the surrounding area. But once we're in tune with the war devil in question's memories, we're slapped upside the head with the fact that we've been led astray, not even to the fault of Will. And now it's no longer a conversation of slaying Karlach, it's how to get Will to back off now that we know the truth, as he's still headstrong and completing the mission cast unto him, if for nothing else but self-preservation. Honestly, I don't think we can leave Will out of a discussion about Karlach, even aside from the moments he's directly involved in, because these two characters supply some of the most genuine interaction between companions we can see throughout the entire duration of our adventure. Will needed to kill Karlach because of the binding pact he made with Mizora to save Baldur's Gate when he was 17. Nobody knows that but him, though when it comes time to face the wrath of Mizora when we next long rest, Karlach's reaction to the circumstances only brings the party closer together, because we can't act like it was an easy decision for Will to stand down in his pursuit to fulfill yet another condition of his pact. But as soon as the consequences of his choice are put out in the open and he grows those two defining horns, our fiery friend begins to realize what Will forfeited in order to save an innocent tiefling such as her. Better yet, Mizora is one of Zariel's assets. She was probably used by the Archduchess to provide a stream of souls, Will's included, but it seems like she deviated a bit to have Karlach slain for escaping from Zariel's ranks. And this is just a glimpse into the most defining feature of Karlach. Her approach to conversation and relaying how she feels is so easy to understand. The inflections and pure passion of her voice is able to carry so much weight with every word. What you see is what you get, to a degree. See, this outward nature of Karlach comes in two different forms: her jolly and people-pleasing side, and her tragic, grief-stricken side. She's certainly most known for the former, but I don't think her character would be complete without her moments of lashing out. Our first objective with Karlach firmly in our party is to deal with some servants of Zariel in the area looking to hunt her down. And they look nothing of the sort, since they're disguised as a band of paladins under the God of Law and Justice tier. But let me tell you, justice will be served, and then some, as however we manage to topple these foes, Karlach wants to make sure that she leaves her mark. The dialogue with her after the encounter shows that she's got quite the adrenaline rush.
Not big enough. Now get out before you get hurt. Now!
We knew her to be a bit forward with her emotions, but damn, this is a little concerning. And despite any attempt to calm her down, her ongoing escape from her past with Zariel has consumed her too much. She proceeds to demolish every square inch of this place, leaving a trail of flames in her wake. If Zariel wanted to send more of her cronies to try and get her war machine back, they'll have to start from a pile of ashes. Now we know what we have with Karlach. We just saw her about as furious as could be, but we've also seen her deeply compassionate for nearly everyone in the party. I mean, she even warned us to get out so we don't end up hurt. There are some red flags sort of waving in the air, but it's not exactly like some other camp members we've seen. Astarion and Shadowheart are two examples where we can tell that they have mostly their best interests as a priority. Sure, you could point to Karlach and Will as having their own objectives, which is true, but they've deliberately proven to us that they're willing to put others as a priority in some instances. So when Karlach's rage raises our concern, we have the empathy to deal with it because of the interactions we've had with her up to this point. Somebody like Astarion, who ambushes us on a first encounter and subsequently tries to feast on our neck, didn't earn any respect from us before attempting such self-interested actions. And it's not just the pale elf, I've heard of many companions becoming divisive because of the dramatic nature of their involvement. The vampire with his aforementioned issues, Gale with the orb, and even Shadowheart and her attitude. But I think I'd have a hard time finding somebody who had a real trust issue with Karlach. What she's capable of will always be in the back of our minds as we continue our journey, but we can be confident in knowing that unless we stray from a certain moral compass, that we'll never have to worry about her unleashing on us. And before we move on to her involvement in Act 2, it would be silly of me to not mention how unique her romance, or even just bonding with Karlach at camp becomes due to her infernal engine. In a game where you can bank on being able to f nearly every one of these companions, we can't even touch Karlach. I sneakily tried to restart my game as a tiefling, but it seems not even a race with fire resistance as a natural trait can stand the flames of her heart, but at least they can get a little trial kiss before it becomes too hot to handle. Literally. And that's where her romance deviates a bit from the other companions. Will's might be sweet, but it's rather vanilla and doesn't have much volatility. Gale has the aspect of dealing with the orb, but he'll take us on magical experiences regardless of how much his power has waned. In order to engage in the slightest form of affection with Karlach, her engine needs working on, and it makes progressing through her questline directly intertwined with progressing through our relationship with her at camp. So different than the other companion story arcs, it's a slow burn, no pun intended, when it comes to satisfaction that we can find as early as the tiefling celebration with nearly everyone else. Doesn't mean we can't talk about it though. But our good friend Dammon is the key to all of this. This tiefling blacksmith is not unfamiliar with the concept of an infernal engine, as after the fall of Elturel, he spent a good amount of time in the Hells working on machinery like it, and upon meeting him, he'll recognize that her heart is from such a plane, and with his experience, he believes that he'd be capable of fixing it, but will need some infernal iron before he can even hope to help. You'll find this shit in plenty of barrels though, it's not hard to find. And when we bring it back to him here, Karlach will come away with her heart burning more evenly, where she gains the Heart of Iron passive ability. I mean, could we ask for a better prep going into Act 2? I'll admit, Karlach's involvement in the grand scheme of things isn't as obvious as somebody like Shadowheart's, who's the holder of the prism that's literally preventing us from becoming a mind flayer. She might mention Gortash and his relevance in her story, but we really don't know who he is quite yet. All we know is that he contributes to why she's in the state she is at this point in the story, a clear enemy in our book already. Point being, Karlach's emotional vulnerability and willingness to wear her personality on her sleeve almost elevates her entire dilemma to that of our main objective. I was so eager to meet Dammon down the road wherever fate intended for us to work on Karlach's engine again. The reaction from her when we even just balance out her heart a little bit was touching to the point of us wanting to solve it for her altogether. The situation she's in is beyond unfair. Hell, unfair is almost insulting to what kind of burden Karlach is truly bearing. Not being able to touch anyone for 10 years? With all of the turmoil she's endured too, I'm sure not having somebody to embrace every now and again has taken a toll on her. Gale's orb is at bay for the time being thanks to Mystra, and we even made it through the Githyanki Kresh with one of their own artifacts. I think that thing is safe for now. Let's get this engine fixed once and for all. We'll find the tieflings from the Emerald Grove to have posted up in the Last Light Inn. And with Mol having our back when Jaheira is ready to stop us in our tracks for wreaking of Illithid, we can assume that the band of folks we saved back in Act 1 are ready to repay the favor here. And speaking of Jaheira, Karlach's reaction to seeing a Sword Coast all-star like her is one of my favorite moments in the entire game. It was so real. I'm sure Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 players felt a similar way, as Jaheira is truly one of the most important adventurers in the eyes of Baldurians, and it just brings us closer in on how frivolous we can approach her interactions. Whether it's sadness, excitement, or frustration she's showing, it's all relatable, which brings us to one of the main reasons we're here. On the far side of this settlement, we can find Dammon set up in yet another forge, and this time he'll relay that if we can supply him with more of that infernal iron we gave him before, that he can calm down Karlach's engine to the point of restoring the one thing she's been yearning for the most: physical contact with anyone. But while it might come off as the one thing she's been looking for, it comes with a sucker punch right when we fall in love with the results. Karlach wants to delay the bad news Dammon tells about though, as she can't fathom being able to embrace us after we've been through so much without such satisfaction. It's truly such a touching moment. Bonding with the other companions felt awesome, yeah, and it may sound like I'm knocking them, but I just respect the element of having to wait a bit to experience even just the surface level of bonding with one of these camp members. The hug with Karlach here felt like it lasted a lifetime. It's everything we wanted and more, and I can't act like seeing her flames turn blue in a shroud of calm back at camp wasn't one of the most rewarding moments so far. But here comes the bad news. It's just a reality that her infernal engine is not meant for this plane of existence. It was made in the Hells and was intended to operate in the Hells. Dammon even describes Faerun as cold, just because his standards as of recently is the scorching heat of Avernus. He can maintain it, but there will become a time where it's too spent, especially with how much wear and tear Karlach is going to put on it through the rest of our adventure. And if she doesn't return to Avernus, it could spell the end for her. Of course, in a moment where Karlach finally gets what she wants, it's paired with one of the harshest realities she could face. She did all she could to escape Avernus, and after the effort we've gone through in order to keep her engine at bay, it's almost the perfectly evil slap in the face to give her at this moment in time. Though she does seem capable of putting on a happy face to thank Dammon after reiterating that she'd rather die than return to the ranks of Zariel. And without denying the truth, we aim to change fate for our fiery friend. See, facing implosion isn't the only factor in her questline. Psh, that's only the end result. What really troubles Karlach began when she was about 20. A while back, she made mention of a man named Gortash, the one who sold her to Zariel in the first place. Now, we all know who Gortash is after 7 playthroughs and 1,000 hours in this game. He's a cunning and conniving little shit. But when we first heard of him as a concept from Karlach, that was all we had to go off of. Any way that we could attempt to conjure up a picture of the man in our heads was clearly depicting him as evil. So when we reached the core of the Mind Flayer colony, only to learn that he's the very Edict of Bane and one of the 3 chosen controlling the Elder Brain, the tension of seeing him in the flesh is elevated exponentially. It was already real for us because of how Karlach described the pain of betrayal, but now to have him be so relevant in the main objective as well, that lust to have his head is guaranteed to stick in the forefront of our minds. But it's not just us who adopts a new level of hatred for the tyrant. Even Karlach seems to not have known that he was in the business of becoming the chosen of Bane. I'm not sure if Gortash would have been in such dealings 10 or so years ago when Karlach had last been in contact with him, but it's no secret that she looks more offended than ever at his presence. He did this to her. Zariel might have put the engine in her heart, but Gortash knew it would happen. And with his pursuit of control over the city she once called home, I can imagine it made her feel like quite the fool to have ever looked up to him at one point in time. His life was in her hands, and she took it nearly as serious as a paladin's oath. Yet she's teased again. Off he goes with Orin right in front of her eyes, further and further from the revenge she longs for. But Ketheric Thorm does seem like the perfect dummy to beat the ever-living piss out of, so Karlach can blow off a bit of steam. Well, Aelin took that one, I guess. First come, first serve, or something. Okay, chill! Who truly gets the satisfaction of killing Ketheric isn't important. Karlach's focus is on Gortash alone, and she even reiterates that she would have never protected a Banite, and that he must die by her hand for all he's done to her and intends to do to the Sword Coast. As we move closer and closer to Baldur's Gate, we begin to learn that Gortash is being pronounced the Archduke of the city. And who's Karlach but a ticking time bomb ready to crash a ceremony, huh? We can certainly let her take control of our first true encounter with Gortash, but it's alongside his steel watch. And the exact approach you'd think Karlach was going to take when we got here is precisely what can happen if you let her. Except with a single waving of Gortash's hand, she's thrown in jail.
Don't fucking touch me! Gortash! Face me, you fucking asshole!
Surprise. We would have likely opted to calm her down a bit here, but it's a bit funny that she's willing to have no regard for any dangers of the situation just to get her point across. It's clear that dealing with Gortash here and now is almost impossible, so perhaps we can enjoy ourselves in Baldur's Gate a bit before circling back to have him meet his maker. Though the looming dread hanging over Karlach's head is still apparent to anybody in her vicinity. But it's one of the most encouraging feelings to see the one actually afflicted with such a tragic fate, so willing to put others' happiness first. The most immediate example is likely Damon yet again. We'll meet him for the third time in Baldur's Gate helming the Forge of the Nine. Says he knows somebody able to rent from for cheap and that he's living the life he's always dreamt of. And Karlach can't help but be thrilled for him, even on the back of him delivering the news that he's found nothing but dead ends relating to fixing her engine for good. We can also find her old friend Fitz, somebody she bonded with in her time serving Gortash, who tells of a baby on the way, and yet again, with such a troubling reality in the back of her mind, Karlach is able to see the joy of the conversation and remind her old friend she'll be an amazing mother, even if she knows she won't be able to live to see such a day herself. It's tough to find a moment where we aren't reminded about our companion's condition, but we can thank Karlach's Act 3 romance for a brief moment without the situation's reality looming overhead. It's adorable to witness how giddy Karlach gets for even just the simplest things. She's so ready to set up a dinner date for the two of us, and she wants it to be a new introduction to each other, like we've never met. That way, she can enjoy a night of fun without the stresses of the adventure on our minds. And Karlach on a first date is about what you'd expect it to be. She's telling goofy stories and spilling drinks on herself in excitement. Sure, I understand we can play Cosmic Twister with Gale, and I mean, yeah, that moment threw me for quite the loop, but it's pretty refreshing to have such a simple little dinner date with arguably the one we'd least expect it from. But that's just how Karlach wanted it, and I'd be willing to bet that you were just as excited to let her have what she wants as I was. Speaking of what she wants, Gortash dead. Whoa, I could run through a brick wall. Nothing gets me fired up more than a good bit of revenge. You like selling your most loyal workers to archdevils? Yeah? You like dying? How about that, Karlach? You must be radiating. Well, I could not have been more inaccurate. Karlach's reaction to the feeling of Gortash's death was some of the most shocking moments I've experienced in nearly any game. Part of the reason as to why we waved off Gortash's offer for alliance was because of the complications with how Karlach might have reacted. Hell, the whole point of her questline after temporarily fixing her engine was to bring what this fucker had coming to him. All of what she endured was because of him. Yet standing over his body, she claims him to be just a pile of flesh like the rest of us.
I feel like I should laugh, but just too goddamn tired. Is that it then? Killed the bastard who ruined my life and now I crawl into a corner and die? Am I fucking missing something? I'm beyond overwhelmed. I'm finished. He's dead. And he's no fucking sorrier now than he was before. What was the point? I'm still dying. I'm dying. I'm going to die.
She might have been able to stifle the reality of her circumstances a bit while we were in the thrill of battle, or exploring the vast landscapes throughout the acts, but not even the most positive people could keep such hurt and unease below the surface. Her exclaiming that she's going to die over and over was like a knife in our gut being twisted back and forth with each word. We were almost a bit dependent on her happy-go-lucky nature to shroud her fate, whereas we learned to be the support system for many of our other companions very early on. So when she's breaking down here, it might not be clear as to how to react.
I'm going to be as dead as a Gortash any day now. Any moment. And what then? Off to the City of Judgment to waste into oblivion? Into the dirt to get eaten by maggots? Is that it for me? Is that fucking all? And you'll just keep going, won't you? Watching the stars, warming your hands on the campfire, dancing, eating, making fucking love all night. All of it, all of it! That's my reward for everything I suffered. That's why I survived 10 years of torment. The fighting, the clawing, the loneliness, the fucking loneliness. All of it so I could rot. Because the person I trusted the most gave me away to the devil. It isn't fair. I don't want it like this.
I mean, this is honestly the most heavy the game has been as far as I can remember, which requires a bit of a break for Karlach back at camp before we can properly get back up and running with the objective we're still eager to fulfill. She needed a good minute to scream at the sky, and no matter how many times she wanted to just fall over and give up, The real Karlach inside of her wouldn't let that happen, so she's more encouraged than ever to save the city, and she wants to be remembered as a hero who went down maybe not on her own terms, but surely without anybody telling her what the fuck to do. And such brings us to her 3 expertly written endings, the best of which I'm not even sure. Maybe you can help me out. First, let's start with arguably the most controversial. In approaching the final steps of the game, we're taken to the astral plane one final time to discuss with the Emperor as to how we're going to take on the Elder Brain once and for all. Do we transform into a mind flayer and assimilate Orpheus? We'd gain the agency over the stones for ourselves, but would be left with tentacles and a reflection of our own identity for the rest of our days. On the other hand, relinquishing the stones to the Emperor and giving him full control of the situation is not an easy concept to get behind either. But with Karlach on the brink of death, she comes forward with yet another option. Proving she truly wants anything but to return to Avernus, the suggestion is to have her transform, replacing her engine with a functioning heart and giving the life she lived up to that point purpose. She actually seems to be content with just the knowledge that she was the motherfucker who saved the world. If otherwise, she would just burn up as a victim of her engine. Plus, her selfless nature shines through once again, as another part of her justification is that she'd rather be a mind flayer than to watch us become one. Truly gave me butterflies in my stomach. But while her proposal sounds like everything will end up in a field of daisies and rose petals, we're scared of Geik for a reason. Through various documentations we can find throughout the game, it's easily understood that mind flayers operate almost on another plane than we do. The biggest example is Baldur's relationship with Ansur. While the Emperor portrayed feelings of true emotion and grief for his old friend, it's simply a fact that his words are only siphoned from learned memories. They're not his true feelings as the being he is now, they're simply imitations of what Baldur would have said himself, whether he means the words or not. So when Karlach approaches us with this proposal, there's more to it than simply preserving her life. That might be accomplished, yes, but at what cost? There's no guarantee that she'll keep the promises she's making here and now once she's transformed. Mind flayers are after one thing after all, self-preservation. Though what we've been through with the red-hot tiefling up to this point might be enough to convince us to let her make the choice herself, because who are we to take this away from her? I'm not going to lie, it almost ruined the entire concept of a romance with Karlach for me. Only because the epilogue is not the most comforting one when we settle down and realize that we no longer see the fire in her that we once bonded so deeply with. It's just a mind flayer, not Karlach anymore, no matter how we squint our eyes. But that shouldn't matter at this point. The only alternative in her eyes, since she's made it abundantly clear that she wants anything but to return to Avernus, is to let her engine burn up. And she's scared of that. We're scared of that. I think everyone is scared of that. So it's a matter of how you weigh things when all is said and done. I've heard some make the argument that allowing her to transform into a mind flayer is fulfilling her own denial. It could be considered as not a true way out, even though it's disguised as the only solution we have. She's been working through the emotions of dying for so long at this point that to give her such an existence as a mind flayer would almost be crueler than to watch what plays out if we don't. Which I personally don't know if that's the case, because, well, just watch for yourselves.
Goodbye, son. Goodbye, sea. Goodbye. I'm ready. I stand back. I'm going to...
How do you watch the credits roll and go to the camp reunion and not feel like the entire journey was pointless? Yeah, we destroyed the Absolute, but I'd argue that the romance with Karlach brought us closer to her than any of the other romances did to their respective companions. Though Withers will be there to speak some words of wisdom to us in the wake of losing such a memorable camp member. He lightens the mood by offering a borderline fourth wall-breaking joke, reminding us that we likely used her to carry a lot of our loot, which... yeah, a joke might not be what we were looking for, but Withers emphasizes how humor is the antidote to any of the darkest hours. And who knew that better than Karlach? Telling us that she offered a bond so deep that in a dozen 10 days, an entire life was lived. A life worth more than mortal years, that mortal centuries were hers because of us, and that the greatest gift that anybody could have given her was joy to shroud the darkness of her final hours. Alright, that's enough soapiness for about 30 seconds. Who's gonna act like they didn't want an excuse to fight in the Blood War? Not me. Karlach, I know you hate Avernus and everything, but I like poker, and a choice with small odds to fix your engine is better than no choice at all. And I'm not gonna go without seeing you light up 2 cigars with your bare hands. This is metal! Thanks for watching. Did you love Karlach's storyline as much as I did? Surely that's the case. Either that or you just like my voice. Anyways, make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed and smash that button like Karlach smashed us?